I've been using Logic Pro for all of my film scoring and music production projects for several years now, but it took me a long time to learn all of the secrets that Logic's piano roll has to offer. So here are 10 tips I wish I knew starting out to make your life in the piano roll just a little bit easier. Let's start off with a system-wide command. If you drag something around while pressing the Option key, you will duplicate the notes to copy them wherever you like. You can use this anywhere else in the operating system if you want to duplicate a file or a folder or something like that. Just Option, and drag, and it'll copy it perfectly. Along with dragging, you might find it annoying if you just want to change the position of notes either horizontally or vertically, but it just keeps moving all over the place. Well, if you go into Preferences, Editing, you can limit dragging to one direction. So let's see what we got. Perfect. Even though my mouse is moving up and down, it only moves vertically. Do note that if you go too far, it will jump to the other mode, which is vertically. So don't veer off the path too much. Now here's what I do often. If you hold the Shift and Option keys at the same time, you can alter the note's velocities to be the same. And then you can alter them all like that. This is very helpful. The same is true if you Option Shift and want to change the length of a note. It will make all notes the same length. You might be able to see how that can also be very helpful. If you want to change the duration of notes so that they're not really overlapping with each other, this is a pizzicato part, so it'd be awkward if we exported this and all of the notes in music notation would be overlapping with each other. We can head over to Edit, Trim, and Note to remove overlaps. We can do it for just the selected ones, adjacent ones, or for repeated notes, which is a helpful command in its own right. Let's just hit Remove Overlaps with Selected. And it trims it down automatically so that one note region doesn't overlap against another. So here's a chord progression that I just put in really quickly. If you have some chords that you played in and you want it to be the appropriate length in the MIDI information itself, you can go to Functions, Convert Sustain Pedal to Note Length. And that'll make the notes that you played in the exact length of the sustain pedal that you used to play it in. Just do note that this will delete the sustain pedal information. It'll sound the same if it had the sustain pedal or it didn't. And let's go back with the sustain pedal. So the next tip, if you need the notes to touch each other, but you didn't program it in that way, you can alter that all in one go. And I'll show you what I mean. Here's the cello part. These notes are very unconnected and it doesn't sound very natural. And if I try selecting all of these will be vastly different lengths, overlapping a ton with each other. Look at that, so messy. If I select them all and go into Edit, Trim, I can force legato. The default key command here is Shift \\. So if I just hit Shift \\, it gets each note to the location of the next one. You'll see though that this last note was extended just to the end of the region, which I don't really want, which is why I prefer using the other command in there, Note End to Selected Notes. Now, as you can see, all of the notes went to the next one that is selected, and since there's not a note after this that was selected, this note just remains the same. Now, if I play it with this function on, it sounds a lot better, it's all connected, and it's, well, legato. Now, you can find many useful, helpful tools if you hit the T button to do several different things that I actually like to use really often. If you're not familiar with these, get to know them. A helpful one is maybe the velocity tool. This is so that you can just click and drag to change the velocity of a note without having to select it, then go to the velocity slider. It can just be a little slower that way. The even quicker way of doing that is to not even have to change to the velocity tool. Just hit Control and Command and your cursor will turn into the velocity tool. And you can just very quickly change the velocity as you need, and it'll go back to the cursor. And say I select a few different notes, Control and Command to change the velocity very quickly, and boom, done. Another one of the tools is the mute tool. So if I hit T and then hit M, I can mute individual notes to get them not to sound in case I want to hear what it sounds like without having to actually delete them, so I can always bring them back if I want to. But you can also mute every note of the same pitch. So if you go to the keyboard off here to the side and select a note, that'll select every note of that pitch. And let me just go back to the mute tool and boom, they're all muted. I could have just lassoed all of them, but in a part that's really nice and complicated, it would be easier just to hit the key, select all of them, and then mute from there. So for our last tip, this is something that you might find pretty useful. Might not even know that it was possible, even though this option is staring at you in the face every time you open the piano roll, and that is to scale quantize. So here's a harp glissando that I just played in the white keys of my keyboard to make it really easy to get the kind of sound that I want. Now, if I select all of them, I can quantize it to a specific scale. So let's see a G harmonic minor. Yep, those are all the notes of the G harmonic minor scale. Let's try another one. Let's say I want all of the notes of the D Lydian scale. And there it is. Really awesome, right? So until next time, you can visit me on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Ernesto Composer. You can visit my Patreon at patreon.com/Ernesto Composer, where you can get access to templates like the one I'm using here, score study versions of my published works, Score Study Sunday Hangouts every month, and more goodies. You can visit my website at ernestocomposer.com. Thanks so very much for watching, and as always, take care.